Ah, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wrestling Inc. And you've got Triple J, Justin, Jack, and Jimmy. And this week is brought to you by HelloFresh. Every week, you get fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and recipes delivered to your door. Get 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts with code INC16 at HelloFresh.com/INC16. I stopped the ability to read for a second there, right in the middle there. But fellas, crazy or a big weekend, I should say. Lots going on. Juneteenth, Father's Day, all that good stuff. Also, some very sad news: the passing of David Hebner and Tim White, two famous referees here in pro wrestling sports entertainment. Always sad news, but Jimmy, we were talking before we came on. You said you had a fun story about Andre there, and I thought it'd be fun to just share it.
Yeah, let me first say that, rest in power to both gentlemen, because for me personally, they were not only teachers and mentors, but they were also guardians and like big brothers to me, and really helped me along and kind of took me under their wing, and I appreciated that a lot. And I remember one of the first times meeting Timmy was there was a show here at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and this was before I started refereeing, actually. And Jack Tunney hands me the keys to his Fleetwood Cadillac and says, "Go to the airport Marriott and pick up Timmy White and Andre," because Timmy used to travel with Andre. He basically looked after anything that Andre needed. They were good friends too, as well. So I get to the hotel and I call up, not knowing anybody. I call up Andre's room. I knew his name and no answer. And so I called Timmy's room and I said, "Timmy, I just called boss's room and there's no answer there." He goes, "Oh, he's probably at the bar and I'll be down in a couple of minutes. So I'll meet you guys there." And all right. So I go to the bar and, I had met Andre, so he knew who I was. And I said, "Hey boss, how are you? I'm here to take you down. I already talked to Timmy. He'll be down in a little bit." He goes, "Go, okay, sure. Have a drink." And I'm thinking, I'm driving, but nobody ever says no to Andre when he offers a drink. And I said, "Well, I don't think it would hurt to have one, would it?" Yeah, well, I'll just have one. I said, "Sure, boss, thank you." So the next thing you know, a couple of soda pops later, I'm starting to feel it. I'm not by any means wired or anything like that. And Timmy comes down and he looks, he says, "Jimmy, have you been having a few drinks with the boss?" I said, he says, "No, I get it. He says, "Maybe I should drive." I said, "I don't know, because if we pull up and you're driving instead of me, Jack may not be happy with that." He says, so, Timmy sat beside me. I was very careful driving. I don't recommend it to anybody. Don't get me wrong. It was just a young, stupid guy who just, not thinking, let's put it that way. So we get down to Maple Leaf Gardens and, now I'm figuring, okay, how am I going to hide? We get down there. Everything's cool. We got down there all right. I go to hand Jack his keys. I go, "Here you go, boss." "Jack, thank you." And he says, "Hey, Jimmy, come here." He looks at me. He looks in my eyes. He goes, "Have you been drinking?" I said, "Maybe a little." He says, "Was Andre in the bar in there? Did he buy you a few?" I said, I didn't want to say yes. So I did the old shoulder shrug. And Jack was cool about it. He said, "You know what? Just go into my office and have some coffee and relax in there." And Timmy came over and talked to him and kind of smoothed things over for me. And that was kind of cool. But it's just one of those deals you can't say no to Andre.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
someone not just the presence of an Andre, but the size of an Andre.
And if I can, real quick with David. David was also like a big brother to me. And I remember we were refereeing. Remember the infamous night where Earl showed up, right? And we didn't know anything about it. We were all kept in the dark.
So wait, nobody knew that Dave had a twin brother?
I don't know who knew, but none of the other referees knew.
Oh, that's
we knew he had a twin brother, but we didn't know that Earl was going to be there that night. So the match comes on. Here's Hogan, Andre, and then I'm looking at the monitor in the back, and I go, "Wow, Dave looks like he's lost a little bit of weight. Wow, what's going on here?" I'm not cluing in at all. And so I turn around to the drink station to go get myself a coffee. And as I turn around to the drink station, I look, and watching the monitor from the corner, in a dark corner there, is David. And I look, I go, Just like, I didn't say anything. I just looked like that. And he just looked at me and went, oh, and then it started to compute that he has a twin brother. That's right. Okay. And okay, I want to see what goes on now, because we were, like I said, the other refs were left in the dark. Some of them were mad because we didn't know. I like the fact that I didn't know. They got me.
See, so you can relate to what Kevin Owens was going through tonight. You turn one way, you see one brother, and then you see the other brother.
There you go. Maybe a little different, but hey,
both legendary moments.
Yeah,
Truly,
yeah, definitely.
But it's very, very cool to hear these great stories, and two absolute legends. But we're gonna, as we get the show rolling on here, we have some news. We always like to start with news here, and some, I guess, positive news in some ways. Oliver Luck and Vince McMahon have settled on their lawsuit. Luck sued McMahon over compensation that he felt he was owed, as Luck felt his contract with the XFL and parent company Alpha Entertainment was improperly severed just before the company filed bankruptcy in April of 2020. PWI is reporting, and WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston has confirmed that the lawsuit between the two parties has been settled. The parties have amicably resolved this matter, Thurston wrote, and wish each other well in future endeavors. The documents were also sealed. Now, Justin, you got to look at that as good news, considering that there's a lot of stuff going on around WWE legal right now. They can at least check one thing off the list.
Leave it to you to be the positive one to see it there. I mean, but you're right. I mean, it is one less thing for Vince to concern himself with, for Jerry McDevitt, Vince's lawyer, to concern him with, and the other counsel that represents the company and Vince. If this would have gone to trial, and if I remember this correctly, if it would have gone to trial, and if things would have been awarded fully in favor of Oliver Luck, I think Vince would have been subject to like $25 million or something like that he was going to have to pay. So, I mean, obviously, $25 million, nobody wants to write that check. So yeah, one less thing for Vince. But certainly I think Oliver Luck, privately can, and his lawyers can thank the current circumstances that we've seen Vince, the company, come under in the last week, given the news, because let's get this thing done. Let's get it sealed. Best possible outcome really for WWE. Well, obviously, of course, we don't know the terms of the settlement, but again, all things considered, probably the best possible outcome.
Well, and it says they parted amicably. So, I mean, Jimmy, you're a ref. You call it down the middle. I mean, if they're both parties leave happy, I'm no lawyer. I don't know. I have no idea, but it just seems like if both of them say we're happy, it worked out, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm a terrible lawyer.
No, I trust me. I love watching lawyer TV shows like Lincoln Lawyer and stuff like that. Cheap plug there, but you know what I mean? But trust me, I wish I knew more about it. So when I read stuff like this, I could kind of, absorb it more. But at the same time, like you said, as long as they're happy with the settlement, both sides are happy with the settlement, then all is good. And especially right now, because the perception right now, unfortunately, is not favorable for someone like Vince with all that's going on with the other stuff. So I think getting this behind him is a good move right now.
Yeah, maybe they can, if they are amicable, maybe they can move forward, and then Oliver Luck could be named a new authority figure on Raw or SmackDown. We take his commissioner role, and
you never know.
Hey, it worked for Pat McAfee.
I'm kidding. That's not going to happen, but it's fun to think about.
That you never say never in pro wrestling.
That is Vince's favorite phrase.
And of course, as we move on in the chat, the Tornado Anthony Y says, Jimmy, sorry for your loss, two legendary refs. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Tornado. Appreciate it.
But as we continue on here, there's more law stuff. We're all going to be lawyers by the end of this. But as reported by a Pro Wrestling Insider early Monday morning, Sonny's lawyer, Stephen De La Roche, has filed a motion requesting that he be allowed to withdraw himself from Sonny's legal counsel going forward. The motion was filed last Thursday, just days after Sytch had filed a motion to dismiss the civil suit against her related to the DUI manslaughter case. In the motion, De La Roche cited several reasons for this request, for his request to be withdrawn. Chief among them that he was an impasse between him and Sytch regarding the handling of Sytch's case, one that De La Roche noted made it impossible for him to continue to work together cooperatively. De La Roche also claimed that Sytch had not complied with the terms of the employment agreement between them and noted Sytch would not be prejudiced against if he was permitted to withdraw. As of this writing, no ruling has been made regarding De La Roche's motion to withdraw. This is quite a lot of legal jargon for Jack Farmer. I'm no big time lawyer, but it sounds to me, and Jimmy, you watch law shows, so maybe you know better. It sounds to me like De La Roche is saying, I don't want anything to do with this anymore for whatever reason. I feel like that is hard to say it looked good.
Yeah. No, it doesn't look good. Again, here we talk about the perception. Is perception reality here? And in this case, the one thing I do know from watching all those shows is a defense attorney is there to help you. So them studying law, I've never been in that position where I've needed a defense attorney, but if I did, I would listen to him or her because they know what they're doing. They know how to at least lessen the blow if there's no saving me from the blow. That so to speak. But I don't want to say I know Tammy's personality, but I have dealt with her in the past, and I know she can be a little bit demanding. And if she's not listening to him, and she's disagreeing with whatever his strategy is, he can't give her his best defense, and that's what he's paid to do. So, maybe he just had enough and just said, "Well, I can't take this anymore."
Yeah, Justin, do you? Am I reading it wrong? Does it sound like he's saying, like, I just don't want to work with you anymore?
Well, the story goes on and says he claims that Sytch has not complied with the terms of the employment agreement between them. So, what I speculate that this could mean, Jack, and I think you're on the direction of it is, and to what Jimmy said, as a defense attorney, probably, and as part of him saying, okay, you can retain me as your representation, is basically you got to listen to what I tell you to do. And so if he's saying, look, you've got such a bad situation, you're such a bad record that we got to get a plea deal. So that because it reflects his credibility, reflects his standing in his job. If he says, look, if we try to go to trial with this, we are going to flat out lose. You're going to lose you're going to lose. I'm going to lose. But if we can cut a deal, that's going to be the best possible way out of this. And if to Jimmy's point, if she's being stubborn, difficult to deal with, not listening to him, then that's him saying, well, then I don't want to be saddled with a loss when I'm telling you that the most legal, the best legal advice is to do a deal because you're not going to get anything better. Would be how I'm guessing this is probably going behind closed doors.
Yeah, I feel like I would listen to my lawyer if my lawyer told me to do something, but that's just me. An investigation looking into WWE investors who have lost significant money may be going down in WWE. According to Business Wire, a law firm in California is asking investors that have accrued losses of $100,000 or more to contact them as they are investigating claims on behalf of investors for violations of security laws. The investigations by the Shaw Law Firm, shout out Shaw Law Firm, I don't know. But they are looking into whether WWE, referred to as company, issued false and or misleading statements and or failed to disclose information pertinent to investors. The release goes on to cite the Wall Street Journal article that broke the news of the WWE Board of Directors investigation into Vince McMahon, initially looking into a $3 million non-disclosure agreement between McMahon and a former paralegal with whom the chairman and CEO had a relationship. Looking into the NDA uncovered numerous other NDAs, some involved WWE head of talent relations John Laurinaitis, all alleging some form of misconduct. Justin, the bad news seems to continue to pile on here. It sounds like people who maybe lost a lot of money during all this stuff are trying to say, hey, you caused us to lose money by not letting us know about this in advance. Now we want our money back.
Yeah, and I don't think this is going to be the last of these kind of stories we're going to hear. I mean, this Wall Street Journal report is really opened up, the can of worms. It is really, now it's got people digging. It's got people, and so if anybody has any connection with the company, whether they're a former employee, whether they're an investor, whatever, they're going to be, talking to a lawyer and seeing if they have a case for something that's owed them. So this probably won't be the last of these stories. And the other thing is the more firms that are doing investigations, the more of this stuff's going on, and they keep digging, and everybody's being a little detective. You just wonder what are they going to keep unearthing? What are they going to find?
Well, yeah, and there's almost a it's incentivized almost to continue to keep digging and finding reasons to sue, because that's just how law works a lot of times. Someone's suing for a lot of money. I bet we could sue for a lot of money, and just finding a lot of other things in that way. Jimmy, my question for you regarding all this is, you've been in pro wrestling for a long time, and you've seen a lot of news broken by places like www.dirtsheets, spelt with a Z, wrestlingnews.co. How does it feel to see news being broken by Business Wire and Wall Street Journal?
I find it interesting because it's showing the world that WWE, although they are a quote unquote sports entertainment company, they are still part of corporate America. And stuff like this that they're being alleged, of course, right now it's just allegations until it's proven in court. I don't want to say, this stuff has actually happened. We don't know yet. We're going to find out, I guess, in the future. Until it's proven, but it just feels like stuff that goes on in corporate America, not just WWE. It's stuff that probably happens elsewhere, and it's almost makes it in a weird kind of way. And people are going to misread this completely. In a weird kind of way, it kind of normalizes them. If you know what I mean, it makes them feel like the rest of corporate America. They're not
Mm-hmm.
independent group over here. The wrestling people,
right?
They are big business. They are a corporation. So, again, I don't want to speculate whether they're going to find anything. But when you dig, sometimes you unearth things that are buried quite deep. Let's put it that way.
Very interesting to see all this, how all this plays out. But we're going to get into the show. This is what we came here to do, talk about WWE Raw. There's so much fascinating legal stuff going on. It's interesting. I feel like I'm getting my amateur law degree reading through some of this stuff, but it's fun to see. Well, not fun, but you know what I mean? It's interesting to see to see all this stuff that's happening here. But as we get into the show, we've got Dream Realm Studios in the house, Baby Ice. Looks like we got Jax Collins. Hey, Jax, how have you been, buddy? Alonzo Smith, haven't seen you in a while, Alonzo. Bernie DC, Doink the Clown, Stephen Camp, Joel, and Tim Krangle, and we'll do one more. Sergio in the chat. Thanks so much for everyone being with us live. And of course, leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. 5-star review if you're on Apple. Leave a little comment on Apple. We haven't gotten an Apple in a while. So go to Apple and leave a 5-star review. And say Jack sent you. I don't know. But let's get this show going. First, we start off with Bianca Belair coming out, and she lets us know that Rhea Ripley will not be able to compete at Money in the Bank. So we're going to find someone new, and that means they're going to have a 6-woman match where the winner gets the title shot at Money in the Bank as opposed to being in the Money in the Bank. And it's basically the group that you would expect to be in Money in the Bank in the first place. So they have a match, and it's all back and forth. Carmella is the one that gets the win. Becky Lynch isn't happy about it, so she's told that she's going to face Asuka later on tonight. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, a lot of stuff going on to start this episode, and sounds like another curveball got thrown their way, and they're trying to adjust with very little time to get there.
Exactly, and it seems to be, the course of action lately. They've been throwing a lot of curveballs, but starting off with the women like they did, you want a good spot. The important spots on a show are how you begin and how you end, and obviously the hour crossovers and stuff like that. But two things about this: I enjoyed the match itself. I thought the match, the women worked hard. They got some nice false finishes in there and stuff like that. I was surprised at the outcome, though. I'm a little surprised that Carmella got the win there, only because on one hand, I like the fact that I was surprised by her winning it. But on the other hand, it makes me believe that I don't see her having a chance of winning the title at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. It just feels like, and don't get me wrong, I think Carmella could have a fine match with Bianca. I'm sure they can have a heck of a match, but I just don't feel that I'm not going into it going, will Carmella emerge with the title after this?
Yeah, Justin, I gotta say I side with Jimmy here. I don't know if I necessarily buy in Carmella as a legitimate contender, considering she hasn't been on TV in weeks. But she's been a champ before. Like, do you think she can make this spicy?
Well, I mean, all of them. To me, all of them belong.
Liv. Oh, never mind. I thought you were gonna say we're former champs, but
no, I was gonna say, but they all feel like they belong. And in Carmella's case, she's won the Money in the Bank, as they reference, even though she had James Ellsworth retrieve it for her. The match was good. I have no problem with Carmella winning again. I was fine. I would have been fine with any of the five. I did note it was to start with that promo. To see all five of them again, it's like it reminds you that the depth that WWE has with the women. Whether they're always properly using them, different story, but they have great depth and have really developed some great ladies and some characters over the years. Come a long way from where they were. I got to say, I'm not a fan of this, or I wasn't a fan of how it came off. I never like when all five of these ladies are getting ready to fight over something, worth fighting over. I don't like seeing all five of them stand in the ring there talking. Yeah, they're talking some trash, but and I know from a television visual standpoint, it's nice to get them in the ring. Everybody in the arena can see them, whatever. But have one or two in the ring. Obviously, both of them being baby faces or heels. Have one or two up on the stage. Have one or two standing in the timekeeper's, production area or coming for the crowd. Like, I know logistically it makes the cameras got to be pointing more places, but I'd much rather that, so that way once they are within the ringside area, they're at each other and there's the fire for the match. I don't like seeing all of them stand there and then, okay, commercial, come back, we're gonna ding ding ding, then you're gonna go. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. But
no, I get what you're saying. When they're all over the arena, it makes it feel bigger too, because they're all over the arena as opposed to just in the match. It does feel a little bit like, okay, let's put who do we hand our microphones to? Let's get ready to. It does feel a little awkward when they make that transition from everyone being in there to getting the match going. In general, this is where I give this whole episode. Actually, I might say this a bit. I feel like nothing reinvented the wheel here, but there's a lot of stuff that I go, okay, I get that. That makes sense. I like what they're doing with that. I think that if this match happened 4 weeks ago to build the Money in the Bank, I'd be like, that's kind of random. But I get we've got Money in the Bank. Is it next Saturday, next week? Like, so you kind of got to just get going. You can't really dilly dally if that got changed. And so I kind of get doing this. And Justin, to your point, yeah, they all look like, oh yeah, we've got a whole division here, because a lot of people question how many people do you have in division these days? Is everyone getting hurt? They look like they have a pretty strong division to me. They had 5 of them out there, not counting Bianca. But yeah, we're gonna get Becky and Asuka in our main event. I like that was set up nice and early. Before moving on, Dream Realm Studios. I turned 42 at midnight. Wrestling Inc.
Ooh.
Hey, happy birthday!
Congratulations.
Happy birthday!
When you say at midnight, it sounds so ominous instead of just tomorrow.
Yeah, doesn't it?
At the stroke of midnight, I turned my 42nd year. But happy birthday, Dream Realm. Yeah. Let's see here. So perfect. So as we move on, this was I think. Can
I also get a shout out too? Yeah. I gotta get a shout out to Jeffrey Crescent. I always do the call to action. He said he was listening to the podcast last week at his body shop in Salisbury, Maryland. So shout out to him. We also had earlier tonight, what was the name? Ejidu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he said I'll be listening to the 3 of us tomorrow when he's driving to work in Los Angeles. So again, always tweet at all of us. Tell us how you're doing the show, where you're listening to, where you're listening from.
Oh yeah, definitely let us know. It's always fun. It's always fun to know, because that's always interesting. So yeah, let us know. And this next part, as we talk about, is I think probably the part that got some attention. Mr. McMahon comes out. Total surprise. I don't think anyone was expecting to come out. Says that that was episode Raw 1517. And after being almost on air for almost 30 years, the greatest to ever do it will be back next week. Just kind of hyping it, just kind of getting out there on TV again. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on Vince coming out during this time, or if anything to give feedback on.
No, I have no real thoughts other than, he's not obviously mentioning the situation at all. I think it's just basically to show that I'm Vince McMahon, and regardless of what's going on, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, this definitely comes off as a stubborn pride thing. Almost if he just come out tonight, had he not been on SmackDown Friday, so pretend that didn't happen. If he would have shown up tonight and hyped the Cena return, I wouldn't have questioned much of it because we all kind of are, we've heard Theory kind of taunting at Cena. That's the speculated belief, and the theories Vince's chosen one, so it kind of would have. Maybe would have even got me excited. Oh, are we going to see Vince come out next week when Cena comes out? But the fact that Vince, had the big advertised appearance on Friday, which was just basically nothing, and it all came off of just hours off the heels of all this negative news that we've been hearing about. It just screams, as Jimmy said, kind of like trying to control, like I'm still here, almost a trolling of some sort, and so. And I gotta say, Vince, he didn't look his best. I mean, the bags under the eyes. He had trouble getting in and out of the ring. Of course, he was trying to laugh and play it off, but nothing about it just came off real positive.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't get his normal 30 minutes sleep a night.
Justin, I have a question for you about it. We always talk about how the internet wrestling fan is a minority of who's actually watching WWE. Do you think that there's the majority of people watching WWE just see it as Vince McMahon coming out and nothing more, and don't even realize that there's all this other stuff going on?
That's a great question. That's a great question because you have to always factor in when stuff like this, so Vince comes out and one person turns to their friend and says, "Oh, and starts talking about what we're talking about. Oh, he might be in trouble, and blah blah." And then the person maybe next to them or in front of them or behind them turns to them and, "Well, what are you talking about?" So I don't know if word of mouth things spread like that. I also don't know. This was an interesting crowd too to note, and they play to this later, which we'll get to. They were on a college campus, and if you looked at the crowd was very youthful. And when I say youthful, I don't mean a ton of kids, but I mean like young adults, college age kids. And I noticed that even before they did the Nebraska thing later in the show. But so I wonder if they had some kind of a ticket special on campus or whatever. And so I'm curious, are these fans that haven't watched in a long time that they're trying to reintroduce? Are they following the mainstream? So that's a great question. I really, judging by the people though, if they do, they put it aside and they lose themselves still in the Mr. McMahon character because they're still doing this and they're mostly cheering him. It's not like people are booing him because they're booing the potential behavior that they're reading about in this investigation.
When you're in a crowd, it's very hard to not go along with everyone if they're singing and stuff like that. It does get very hard to not lose yourself. So it's an interesting to look at from the outside in. But the show continues, and we get to Riddle coming out, and he lets us know that if he wins Money in the Bank, that whole I can't challenge Roman Reigns thing goes right out the window. And he says all he's got to do is beat Omos, and they have a match, and even though it was a tough fight, Riddle was unable to get the win here. Jimmy, one of my favorite things about Riddle is that he still says 3 destructive letters, RK bro. That still cracks me up every time. But is this Omos's first legitimate singles match not against Lashley? I know he's had local talent and stuff like that, but is this his first okay, this is a real matchup that isn't Bobby Lashley?
I believe so, because I can't think of anything offhand. But the thing about Riddle right now is Riddle, he seems more comfortable on the microphone when he did that promo before the match. He's become entertaining. He's become engaging that way. And even during the match, when his selling, I'm really impressed with the way he sells. And they did something in this match that I love when they do to baby faces. They made me feel sympathy for Matt Riddle, and that's how it's supposed to be when you beat up a baby face, especially when you got a big time heel and you're trying to elevate that big time heel. You need sympathy on the baby face so he doesn't lose any steam in that loss. And I think they did that, and then having Seth come out afterwards and just do what he did, man, I'm all in with Matt Riddle right now.
Yeah, Justin, and we'll talk about Rollins because obviously that was something important. But for the past few weeks, I feel like Riddle's on another level. And after that match with Reigns, I mean, the person who beats Reigns is probably going to be someone special. But the idea of Riddle being a world champion in the very near future does not seem that unlikely anymore. I feel like he could sell a pay-per-view to me.
Yeah, he's definitely getting there. Absolutely. Obviously we still have a week and a half to go. I'll have a hard time believing. I have a hard time seeing Riddle not in this Money in the Bank match. And quite frankly, if he is, he's got to be a heavy favorite to win it. For all the reasons we're saying now, the people are getting behind him. And if you creatively have just been thrown a huge curveball with Randy's health, and if he's going to be out for the rest of this year, potentially, then start running with take that momentum that Randy Orton helped get Riddle, helped rub over to Riddle, and run with it. Build a new babyface, a single star, and having him with that Money in the Bank briefcase, being able to then, as a response to just having lost to Reigns and not be able to challenge anymore. Now this is his loophole, so to speak. I mean that just seems like it's perfectly fit. It takes potentially a terrible situation if Randy's dealing with a back issue. At least it spins it on its head. So I don't know here. I'll be curious to see. Like I said, I'll believe it when Money in the Bank comes and goes, and if Riddle's not involved. But for Omos, this definitely was his biggest singles match and win, other than the stuff he did with Lashley. And again, if you go back and watch it, it show you how much people care about Riddle. As Omos stood there and raised his hands, and he even did a little some cheap stuff after the bell, a little insult to injury. There was some real heel heat there of people booing him. So you accomplished several things here with these guys.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like he needs to be in that Money in the Bank ladder match. And Jimmy, we talked about Rollins coming out here. I feel like that rivalry is just ripe for the picking. And I think because of the way it's structured, I don't want to be the guy that tries to predict too far where they're going, because I feel I've learned that is a futile effort. But I could see one of these guys, Rollins or Riddle, winning the title. And then if Reigns is going to be busy with Brock Lesnar over the course of SummerSlam, they could have their rivalry play out while Roman Reigns deals with all that kind of stuff. It feels like it would play out just perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's to say that if one of them, either one, whether it is Riddle, he works his way into the Money in the Bank match at Money in the Bank and wins the briefcase, and now they battle, him and Seth battle over ownership of the briefcase. Maybe they have a best of 7 series, and the winner gets to keep the Money in the Bank briefcase, and they get to cash in or something like that, and keep that rivalry going and take time with it, because these are two guys that are really hitting their stride right. Well, Seth has been hitting his stride for a long time now.
Right,
but like you said, Matt is really got some steam right now, and don't waste it. Take your time with it. Build it.
Oh, they'll take their time with it, but I think it'll be more like that best of 7's happening without just calling it a best of 7. I just think they're going to have 7 matches. That's likely how that will go, but they'll all be amazing, I'm sure. Speaking of amazing, a fun segment happened here. I feel like I feel like Raj wouldn't have liked this part, but I loved it. Austin Theory comes out to do some more posing, and I thought Austin Theory, Justin, let me know your thoughts on it. I thought the fact that he was playing back and forth with the crowd, I thought he was working the crowd in a natural way and actually interacting and not just saying things. And the way he took the selfie to realize that Lashley was there, I thought was just chef's kiss bad guy stuff on WWE. I was like, Austin Theory gets it. I don't know what else you could say about the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of why you can see that he's been identified as somebody they're going to build around. He's doing the right things out there. He's getting the heel reaction, and then that's so he's in there and whatever, and then Lashley comes over behind. I mean, this is not anything new that we've never seen before, and it could have just been he starts to hear the crowd chanting Bobby, and he gets wide-eyed and does a slow turn, but just whether it was his call or Vince's call or a writer or a producer, whoever had the moment to say, he's got to use the selfie to realize that, and that's just that's just a little thing that elevates the entire segment, and fits to a very intricate part of his character right now, which is the narcissistic selfie nonstop.
Yeah, and Jimmy, the way he was looking at the picture on the screen and overreacting, and the way Bobby Lashley was about to hand him the title back and then pulled it away, and he just looked like such a loser in the best possible way. And I think those little things that over time we take for granted, that like you're not necessarily always supposed to look great. If you're the bad guy, you're supposed to look like an idiot sometimes. And I think that he just nailed it.
Yeah, and I understand that over time the business evolves and things change. But when it comes to being a heel, sometimes doing it the old school way, especially nowadays, feels new again. And one of the comparisons I make is like, you think back to the invention of the wheel. When the wheel was invented, it was made of stone, and then it evolved. It was made out of wood because it's lighter with the wood and so on, and then rubber, and then vulcanized rubber, then run flat tires and so on. But at the end of the day, the wheel is still round. And I think that's what Austin Theory gets. Guys like him, and I'm going to go to the other side too, if he's still there, MJF. These are old school heels that get how to mesh today's world of evolving the heel side without trying to be the cool heel. You know, which is okay if you're going to end up being a babyface eventually. But when you're a heel that people legitimately boo, that's money.
Yeah. I think he's going to be great, and we'll talk about him a little bit more in a little bit. But real quick one before we get to probably the segment of the night. Angelo Dawkins gets a win over Jey Uso. Jimmy, this one pretty. I feel like, again, I said this is not reinventing the wheel episode, but everything kind of works. Street Profits get a win back over the Usos, who got the win last week over Montez Ford. But the thing I thought was exciting is I felt like this was a little flip-flop. I think if you were looking at this going into it, you would have said Montez is going to beat Jay or Jimmy, and then Jay is going to beat Dawkins. But it was flipped, which I think is kind of cool.
Right. And I know there are people out there going, oh, here they go again with the 50-50 booking. But it sets up the match perfectly. And again, you can argue whether this thing is going to be a sign that maybe there'll be a title change. Some people are saying, no, it's not happening because it doesn't fit with the Bloodline storyline, whatever the case may be. It's still fun. I thought they had a very good match. They told a very good story. And there you go. It's not going to be best of 7, but they each have singles wins now, which lead to the tag team match where the titles will be up for grabs. And I thought it was done very well.
Justin, do you think next week we're going to have them swap partners and see if they can coexist?
Can they coexist?
If next week's Raw was in Vegas and they did like the roulette wheel, I wouldn't put it past. But it's not in Vegas next week. But yeah, no, I mean, I can't really say much more other than all 4 of these guys, they're really fun athletes. And again, they all are also getting reactions from the crowd. Obviously, the Usos have for a decade now, but Street Profits absolutely are. So I mean that always helps. And again, that just helps when you can have guys and girls go out there who just get reactions, good, bad, or whatever the aim is. Even as a viewer at home, just sitting by myself in a basement, it helps me stay engaged versus people sitting on their hands and just not knowing what to do. So yeah, I mean, this was perfectly fine.
Yep. Now we're getting to the good stuff here, guys. This segment, I had a grin ear to ear this entire thing. I absolutely love this. I'm still giddy about it. We had Ezekiel and Elias on the screen at the same time, and they were actually very Justin for just that part where they were on the screen together. It was actually very wholesome. They were actually very supportive brothers to each other. I was kind of surprised at how nice this was, but they knuckle bump at the end, and of course there's the concert afterwards, and KO comes out and Ezekiel's on the screen and everything backstage. Wasn't it great to see the brothers together on TV?
The funnest part about this, again, sticking with reactions, the crowds encouraging the bit to go on. So like the first time you see Ezekiel pop up on the screen while Elias is in the ring, the people are like happy about it because they're like, yes, see, and then when he's like, so that's what makes it fun, is that the fans feel like that everybody feels like they're in on this joke that only Kevin Owens refuses to accept. I don't. there's a fun quality about that. You know, I like it.
It's and Jimmy, I think now Elias and Ezekiel, those two guys are just doing a great job at being entertaining. But we got to give Kevin Owens credit in the way he is so upset about this. I think to Justin's point, I think Kevin Owens' ability to just be so over the top upset about this is what's driving the crowd to egg it on so much.
Somebody's been reading my notes here, because that's exactly what I was thinking, that Kevin Owens is making this work. It's not going, oh, well, I know that was trick photography and this was, and people trying to explain away that. Instead of doing that, they're enjoying what they're seeing. And Kevin Owens is a big reason why he doesn't look like, I'm above doing stuff like this. I'm so good. He is entertaining in whatever he does, and whatever he puts his mind to. And he's just showing you, not only is he good with his in-ring stuff, he's good at drawing you in and making you care about stuff that maybe otherwise wouldn't work. He's making it work.
Yeah, the only other heel that I think that really could make this work, and we get besides Owens, you could put the Miz in there, and the Miz would probably, talk about taking something like, who knows how it was pitched to them,
right?
And taking something that could have just been a trivial Night After Mania thing of we've repackaged Elias, he's out there now with his beard shaven. Oh, aren't you Elias? Aren't you Elias? And we just move on. But they've ran with this now for. I mean, we're in June 20. It's June 20th. I mean, that's insane that they've gotten this much out of it, and it feels like it's actually building momentum.
It is. And the whole time, the way they would do these these different angles and things like that, and even to the end when Ezekiel pops up after a Kevin Owens comes back from ringside, was fantastic. And now I know everyone's clamoring for their third brother Elrod to show up and be a three faces of what's crazy is all this time, I didn't realize until now that when Cody Rhodes music hits and it says wrestling has more than one royal family, they're talking about Ezekiel and Elias. That's the other royal family.
Although the one hole in this here is obvious. I mean, and maybe it's part of the joke. Is like, if you're Kevin Owens, just challenge him to a handicap match. Make them both appear in the ring at the same time.
Hold on, I'm texting Kevin right now.
Well, that'd be the beauty, is if they find a way to pull that off. That's the bummer about it not being the Thunderdome era, as I'm sure they'd find a way to do it in the Thunderdome era. But that's the only time someone's going to say that's the bummer about it not being the Thunderdome era, by the way.
You never know what they might accomplish. I mean, they Mick Foley played three characters at a time. So
three faces of Foley. Yeah.
If they do, I saw it on Twitter, but if they have him enter twice into the Royal Rumble, I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it so much. That would be great. But I guess this is the one last thing I want to talk about with this though, is, and I don't know, maybe it's because of what the bit is and everything, but when Elias was out there, I couldn't help but notice how into it the crowd was. And it made me really think about, they've still got magic with Elias. Like, the Ezekiel stuff is fun, but there's something there with Elias that people just love. I don't know. I watched this. I was kind of like, I want Elias back. Give us Elias back. He's amazing.
Well, yeah, you got to remember, Jack, and this is a character who got to have big moments with The Undertaker, with John Cena, with Jeff Jarrett, he got out there and did this bit of the walk with Elias, and of course he did it, doing the heel stuff, with major names. So the audience is very aware of who he is, and when Elias stopped existing on TV a year ago, whatever that was, there was really no reason. It wasn't like the fans weren't reacting or what. I mean, I still don't know why. And maybe they're having some remorse, and hence why they are reviving Elias. This guy was a main eventer without ever having a lot of main event matches. They put him in a lot of top level segments with Hall of Fame names. Right,
and that shows you the confidence they have in him to put him in there with those legends and those top guys. So he does have it. It's just that again, with the Zeke character, I haven't bought in yet, but after watching Elias back tonight, I'm like, grow that beard back, man. Come on.
You mean Elias come back on TV?
Yeah.
That's what you mean. But yeah, my favorite, of course, I'm originally from the Northwest. So when he was in Seattle that one time and he brought the house down on him, that was my favorite. Even though he's making fun of where I'm from, I was like, this is great. He's great. So we move on with the show and we get to Bobby Lashley taking on three fellas. First Chad Gable, next Otis, next Theory. And Justin, this was the gauntlet match, and again, not reinventing the wheel, not doing anything we've never seen before. But I felt like this really worked. I thought the Gable match was actually pretty solid on its own. I thought Hammer of God Otis felt like very out of nowhere to say that, but I was like, geez, he's crazy. He seems a lot tougher when he says that. But and then of course Theory coming out and getting surprise pinned. I thought this was great. I loved this. And I was actually kind of surprised because with John Cena coming back and all the teases to John Cena, I thought maybe this would be how they get Bobby Lashley out of the match and get John Cena in it. So I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I mean, gauntlets are hit or miss for me. But this was entertaining at least because of the opponents. They made the match quality good, and it was a nice little swerve. I didn't see Theory being the third one and him losing, and I got to say, it was an awesome counter that Lashley does from the A-Town down that the Theory finish.
Yes,
the counter into that cradle pin was just really, it was just look good. So yeah, I mean this actually surprised me with how much I enjoyed it when it was all said and done.
Yeah, but the only issue I have with it, and yes, I did like the surprise of it. Chad Gable is just so underrated. The guy is so darn good. He's incredible. But as much as I agree with you guys, I did like the fact that Theory came out. I'm just not a big fan of the champions, coming out and you basically having to beat the champion to get a shot at the champion. Yeah. And what do they call it? A championship contenders match?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was a championship contenders
gauntlet match. Yes, it is what it felt like at the end. And although in this case, in some ways it did work having Theory coming out last and being the third man, because obviously Bobby had a disadvantage having faced two people already. Still, it's beating the champion to get a shot at the champion, and I still have a problem with that.
Justin, do you think to that point, do you think this is one of those things where Theory is going to get kind of bullied the whole build up and then find a way to sneak the win at the end?
Maybe. I don't know. The curious thing is the timeline is that, so we're going to have Lashley and Theory on Saturday, July 2nd, but the Monday prior to that, we assume we're going to have Theory and Cena showdown with each other. So once I see Theory, talking trash in the ring with the John Cena, I mean, maybe they can get creative and find a way, but it's going to take me out of a little bit having Theory worry about Bobby Lashley, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's actually why I thought Bobby Lashley was going to lose, is because I agree. Once I see, and not no offense to Bobby Lashley, it could be against anybody. Once you see John Cena there, you're like, I want to see the John Cena match, not this other one. I don't know if there's anyone that you could put across, like you be, unless it was like Roman Reigns or something. I don't know, but yeah. Of course, maybe we're just assuming something's happening with John Cena. Maybe John Cena's really just come back for a one-off, and this is their way of trying to, Vince is trying to goad him back into coming back for another match.
Well, I mean, look, if you pay, Theory comes out, they cut to commercial, in the middle of his entrance. What's the first thing they show? They show the promo for Cena. I mean, he's mentioned Cena. We're going to get something with Theory and Cena at some point, but whether or not, I mean, probably SummerSlam is what I think. But maybe we do just see John next week, and he just gets to address the fans, or maybe he's got a few other weeks that we don't know about, and they, maybe he's at Money in the Bank, and him and Theory bumping each other backstage. Who knows? They could, we don't know the timeline, but we'll see.
I think you're more onto something when you talk about SummerSlam, because SummerSlam is now an outdoor stadium show down in Nashville. So, there could be something to that. And, this could be the precursor to that, just planting the seeds, so to speak. Mind you, there's some pretty big seeds when you got John Cena coming out next week. So,
yeah.
But like Justin said, if the seed is planted, it kind of takes you out of the Bobby Lashley thing a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm very eager to see John Cena come back. I'm very eager to see what he does and what this is about. Hopefully it's more than just thanks for 20 years. By the way, what was in the water in 2002? I feel like every month we have a different 20 years of WWE history with a super legend.
They were drinking powerful stuff in OVW.
They must have been, because yeah, all of them 2002. And then I saw that someone just recently posted Rey Mysterio came to WWE in 2002 also. So
well, that was you have to remember too. 02 is that's a glorious time when you think about it, because you have the tremendous draft class. I say draft, but you know what I mean.
Right.
The tremendous graduating class of OVW,
right?
Of Batista, of Cena, of Brock, of Randy, Shelton Benjamin. Let's not, to a lesser extent, let's not ignore him. But then that's also 02 is also a year. It's a year after Vince has purchased WCW, and so depending on what some guys' legal agreements were of when they would be able to be work or wanted to work, a lot. I think Flair, I think Rick showed up in 02, if I had that right. 02 or Bischoff comes over. So there was just such a NWO. It's like, so that was just a glorious time of what was naturally homegrown being developed, and then what was already established stars getting to come back over from Atlanta.
Yeah, crazy. That'd be a fun year to revisit in some kind of documentary.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Trust me, it was. It was every bit chaotic, but it was fun chaos. If you get my drift.
Was there like a rumble between WCW and WWE refs? You guys get backstage?
No, they weren't. They didn't come in with attitude or anything. Like Nick Patrick obviously had been around for a long time. Charles is just a good dude. He's just a fun guy to be around. And we all got along. And I know they were worried that there may have been a few guys on the roster that were kind of like, hey, why are we hiring this? Why are we bringing these guys? And I was like, dude, we're going to have 3 shows. We're going to have, Raw. We're going to have SmackDown. We're going to have the ECW show at the time too, as well. So, there's room for everybody. Scott Armstrong, Scotty is a good dude. You know what I mean? It's just, as I like to refer to him, good brothers in stripes.
Now, not to derail the show, but I have to ask, is Charles Robinson a vampire? He looks the same age as he did like 20 years ago.
I just want to know what magic potion he's drinking. I actually spoke to him the other day. We were talking the other day, and I was about to ask him, but we got sidetracked. But yeah, he's got some magic formula down there in North Kakalaki.
And Bobby Lashley are both drinking the same stuff.
Bobby looks the same from when I was there. I mean, like, Bobby, what's your secret, please? And between him and Billy Gunn, when you look at guys like Billy Gunn, he's just a freak of nature.
Yeah, I'd ask him what his secret is. He'd probably say eat right and work out, and I'd be like, yeah, forget it. Let's move on to a couple of other folks who've been aging gracefully. Miz TV invites on AJ Styles, and they're Miz TV. I feel like if I told you what they said, if you saw the script, you'd be like, that seems very uninteresting. But it felt like the crowd was really into Miz TV. It felt like they were absolutely into every little bit of it before Ciampa gets involved. And AJ Styles eventually beats Ciampa. And then the Miz tries to attack afterwards, but he gets a Styles clash for his efforts. Justin, was I crazy, or did the fans love Miz TV in the arena?
Well, they really bought into it. I mean, if Lawler was on commentary, he'd been going cheap pop, because AJ's playing into the Nebraska and the Cornhusker, So, but that gets it. That all of a sudden, when you're basically calling out the crowd and their home turf, and that gets them on board. It's why Mick Foley always did the cheap pop. It's why the New Age Outlaws or R-Truth or any of the acts that made it part of the repertoire to include the city name or something about the city. And why Elias, when he ran down, Seattle and the Sonics not staying there. It's cheap, but it works, So yeah, they were really into it. Obviously, the Miz is very easy to hate, so. I don't know. It worked, and AJ's a guy that the fans really love, so they're gonna get behind him. So that this was just but you're right. If what was said, if you read what's being said, you're like, this sounds like a bad attempt to get the teenagers to laugh.
Yeah, you'd say you're talking about small as balls are, and then you're gonna shake promote the reality show. What? But
popcorn balls.
popcorn balls. The people loved it. It was so.
And the other thing too is we tend to forget that Miz is such a hateable character on TV, and he's so wonderful at getting people to dislike him.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a long way. Like I said, in today's world where people are more in the know, so to speak, and are online and read about what's going on, and they know that it's pretty much a show. For him to be able to garner that reaction in today's day and age, it just shows you, again, Miz, heel, got it.
Yeah, I always say he's gonna be the guy. After he's gone, we're all gonna look back and be like, "Oh, he was so underrated." We don't. I don't think he gets the appreciation.
I still remember the days he had the change in the broom closet because he was banned from the dressing room. So,
yeah, he's fantastic. But Justin, I got to ask you about Ciampa here. Well, first off, is it Ciampa or Ciampa? We've got that being asked in the chat here. I always say Ciampa, but
yeah, and people around him who know him have always, to me, said Ciampa, so I've always gone by that, which is Ciampa.
So Justin, does he work for the Miz? You think? Is there something going on with him and the Miz, or is this just a coincidence?
No, I think that's where they got to be heading to. I mean, he kind of just randomly got. It's kind of like, okay, you have used up all your time on NXT. We have to get other people cycled in here, whether he wanted that or not. So you're going to Raw, and they didn't seem like they necessarily knew what they were going to do. But I think him working with the Miz, that's another thing. When you have a character like the Miz, again, hateable, that can use that as a rub to other people. He's certainly the type of guy that would employ other people to do his dirty work for him. So I think that would be a perfectly logical step to go in for now, just to try to figure out what do we do with Ciampa long term.
Yeah, and Jimmy, I think that he would be a fantastic kind of gun for hire for the Miz. I think it just gives Miz that an extra weapon to make him hateable, and I think that plays right into what Ciampa is.
No, absolutely, and even again, if you're thinking long term down the road, and I'm not talking next month, next 2 months, or even, but maybe even possibly next year. What a perfect way to turn someone like Ciampa, who could also be a tough guy babyface down the road. And who better to put him up against is the guy who kind of screwed him over, his employer, the guy who he was doing all the dirty work for. If you have that eventual babyface turn down the road, it would perfect having him paired up with Miz.
It worked for another guy that he was kind of a mentor to the Miz for a while before going out on his own. That paid off for him pretty well. We got a super chat, by the way. Nightmare Knee, due to change of schedule, I haven't been able to catch you guys live. Just wanted to show some love. Thank you, Nightmare Knee. We appreciate you stopping by. Always a pleasure to have you stop by. But we get a Veer real quick. I don't know if there's a whole lot to take from this, but Justin, I'll start with you. He said a lot of monster bad guy things, but I like that, at least until the very, very end, he wasn't growly. He was talking normal. So I appreciated that as opposed to the, I like carnage. He was at least talking normal. Did you take anything away from this, or was it just kind of a basic, let's see how he sounds?
It was like a Mad Libs of big guy monster promo, like you said, of things he said. I do think he delivered it okay. I don't want to. I really can't glean too much from that. Let me see more. Let me see more talking. I would really like some backstory. That's one thing I think WWE, they can do it so well when they want to, and especially when they employ their video production. Give me some backstory. And look, Google is all of our friends, and if you Google, you will find obviously his backstory. And Raj always mentioned it, that and he was a baseball player right here in Pittsburgh, a pitcher. A movie was made about him, a Disney movie. You can even use that stuff to fuel why he is the heel now. It doesn't have to automatically just be babyface stuff. Give me some backstory. I want to know why. Why is Veer here to make people pay, or whatever one of the hell phrases he said? Like, why? Tell me why.
Right. I always say, what's the goal? What is this person's goal? What do they want to accomplish while they're here? I mean, it's weird to say I'm here because I want to hurt people.
It's and this is not again talk about reinventing the wheel. This is not that. I've heard Bruce Pritchard do this in front of seminars. I've heard a lot of people do this. It's just the most basic thing. Go up to a wrestler, say, describe who your character is in one sentence, and if you can't do that, there's a problem. And I don't know, like I just would be very can Veer tell me who he is in one sentence? Do they know? And they being WWE.
I did appreciate the fact, like Jack said, that he didn't do the gravelly voice heel promo, but it still felt like paint by numbers. It didn't feel natural. And one of the things that you have, I know it takes time to get to that point, but this one was so far the other way that it just didn't feel natural to me. It felt like he was trying not to forget what to say, as opposed to just saying it. And sometimes you luck into stuff. Sometimes you say things that are not written down on a piece of paper, and it comes out and they go, "Oh, that was pretty good." And then sometimes you say stuff, and when you get back, they say, "Hey, don't say that again." But again, with someone like Veer, I think he has to find his voice.
Yeah,
he looks impressive. Don't get me wrong; he looks impressive and stuff, but he needs to find his voice.
Yeah, Nightmare Knee in the chat says, I like Veer a lot. They just need to do better. Yeah, I feel like they've given him the platform at this point because look, he's crushed Rey Mysterio, and that's not nothing. That's a big deal. But yeah, now you need to find out, like, okay, you did what you came here, you started to do. Now what? And I always say too, if your thing is to win the title, that's everyone's thing. It's got to be something different than that.
Yeah, and to Jimmy's point of finding the voice, and I'm stealing. Well, not stealing. I'm going to credit Raj. Raj has said this many a times when we've talked about Veer, which is Veer's online social media presence is far different. Yeah, he's babyfacing it up. He's certainly not in the MJF or the Miz vein of wanting to be a heel and wanting to always be disliked. You know, he's taking pictures with kids and charitable and what have you, whatever. But his presence also visually. He's dressed like $1 million, and so maybe that's that's who he feels he is, which is great, okay. But then he's being, I assume, told, okay, this is the look you're gonna have on TV on a Monday Night Raw. You're gonna wear this, and maybe that's where there's a disconnect. Maybe it's he doesn't feel comfortable enough, or there to speak up and say, what if I did, maybe what if I did come out dressing like a GQ model? Do I have to be wearing, and maybe that's where there's a disconnect here in terms of finding the voice and believing in what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I did notice this time too, by the way, it's totally something. Kevin Patrick is getting work in. I feel like we see him more than any backstage interviewer in a while. I don't know if that just means he's doing really good, or if maybe I'm just noticing him more often.
I kind of noticed that too. I think I think the last person that got as many reps as him is, I think, when they used Renee at the height of Renee when she was there.
Yeah, because even like Charlie Caruso, they would have they would split duties with people and things, but he had 3 pretty big ones today. And I did like how Austin Theory, by the way, was like, "Do you just hide in the shadows?" Or that was kind of a funny little bit there. But moving on to the main event, Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Justin, we'll start with you. I thought this was just a fun, unpredictable match with real stakes. I couldn't figure out who was going to win, and Asuka does. She's going to Money in the Bank.
These two have tremendous chemistry together. They really they work well together. So I'll say that. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention this Becky storyline feels very similar to her husband's storyline, Seth, approaching Mania. It is just can't win anything, wants a match at the big show. They didn't even end Raw on showing Asuka celebrating. They ended Raw on the cameraman on the floor with Becky in tears up against the ring skirt. And I'm like, we ended a Raw like that approaching Mania with Seth Rollins. So I don't know. No, that is what it is. But no, the match itself was a very, very good match.
I have to confess, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this is kind of like what Seth was doing, trying to get into Mania. But But Jimmy, Asuka's going to Money in the Bank, and I guess continuing the Becky thing though. Yeah, she continues to decline. It does. How low does she go?
Well, that's the thing, though. There, you can lose. There are some special talents. Seth is one of them, and now we're going to find out if Becky is one of them as well. That can lose and still not lose any of their steam and still keep their heat. Seth is really good at keeping his heat. Time will tell if Becky is in that same boat. Obviously, being a couple, hopefully the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. No, that doesn't apply here, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, or maybe this is something that brings them together on screen eventually, because people are pretty much aware that they are a couple. So maybe this is something that brings them together on screen, and they help each other find themselves.
Yeah, maybe
something along those lines.
Yeah, something there. I was thinking if she gets the shot against Bianca Belair, she's going to become Bianca Belair's Brock Lesnar to the Roman Reigns there, where no matter what she does, she always ends up finding herself against the same person. But yeah, I like Asuka. I prefer this. I think Asuka needed to be in this match. I think she needed to get to Money in the Bank. I think she's always that person that, like, she has that feeling of like she should be an unstoppable person, but eats a lot of losses for someone who's supposed to be unstoppable. But somehow she always keeps that air of invincibility. I don't know why, but that's I guess to your point, Jimmy. Some people can lose all the time and they don't lose it. But yeah, so we got another Money in the Bank person in there. Like I said, nothing really news breaking in this episode, but I felt like it was a fun one. I thought that everything that happened, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That was good. Any final thoughts from you guys? Jimmy, I'll let you go first.
No, I thought it was an entertaining Raw for the most part. There were little things, of course, you can nitpick about, but again, at the end of the day, I got invested in most of the characters. We obviously spoke about Veer, who needs to work on getting me interested in him, at least for me, anyways. But for the most part, the people shined tonight. Riddle shined, I thought, a lot tonight, and despite the loss, and you know, Bobby is making a big play, and I'm also seeing how much I miss Elias. I didn't know I missed him that much. But and you talk about guys who have it, and when you talk about potential for the future, Theory looks like a guy who's going to be around for a long time.
Yes. And Justin, as we get your final thoughts, to Jimmy's point, people who shine, and people, you know, they always say, who are the new stars? I mean, I'm looking at this roster, I'm thinking Ezekiel Elias could be one of those guys. Riddle could be one of those guys. Austin Theory could be one of those guys. There's three people right off the top that I feel like have never been the champion, that if you said in the next year or so it happened, I'd be like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me that much. Yeah,
no, this has been going for the last 6 to 9 months. They've been doing better and better at really allowing some new talent run and establish. And look, that doesn't, you know, we didn't even mention, and didn't even see tonight, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, you know, so yeah, there's guys and girls there, which is a good thing. They, you know, because, you know, obviously John Cena's not there anymore. You know, Randy Orton again, you know, you hope not, but he might be on the, you know, the final bit. So you got to have the future. So this is, I mean, yeah, okay episode of Raw. Again, I'll say this. It really helped this crowd was engaged with certain characters and segments. That just does wonders. Next week, Laredo, Texas. Our eyes are on you.
Yeah, you better turn out. I wonder. I wish there was a way of knowing how much John Cena being there bumped the ticket sales there, because I have to imagine people like I would.
I'm sure. By the time if we do this podcast next Monday, I'm sure I can find some stuff, and and wonderful people like Brandon Thurston and WrestleNomics, people that really crunch the numbers day to day. I'm sure we'll be tracking whatever the ticket, what the tickets sold were in the arena for Laredo. Might even be a sellout by now. Who knows? So I'm sure we'll get a pretty good indication.
Yeah, lucky Laredo, Texas. Usually this kind of stuff happens when they're in New York or some big city, but Laredo, Texas.
Hey, if they wanted it to happen in June for it to truly be 20 years to the month, and if you had to pick a Monday in June, you can't be picky. If John Cena says I can do the 27th, you do the 27th. You know,
that's very true.
And plus, it's not like they were at any. I mean, look, they were in Lincoln, Nebraska tonight. Last week they were in. It's another small, maybe Iowa even. They were somewhere. They've been in that general part of the country. So it's not like they've been hitting in major markets. But if Cena says I'll be on a private jet and I'll be in Laredo.
Mhm.
You book them for Laredo.
Yes, 100%. Well, I think that does it for us. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and we'll be back tomorrow for the NXT after show on Tuesday, the Dynamite after show on Wednesday, the Friday SmackDown and Rampage doubleheader. I would assume there's going to be some kind of Forbidden Door after show. I'm not sure about that yet, though, but I'm guessing it'll happen. But that does it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for joining Jimmy, Jack, and Justin, the Triple J team here on Monday nights. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you, Dream Realm Studios, Bernie DC, Chris Aldridge, Stalking You, Joseph Boza, Ricky Zaldivar, Jax, Ryan, Alonzo, Dion, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.